everyone, welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Nitro project, and today we have a very special treat for you all. I've been looking forward to this for a while. We have the one and only Giovanni Francioso on the phone, also known as Cousin Tony from Nitrap.
Hello, hello, hello.
Alright, so Giovanni is here today to answer a couple of questions that I've came up with, as well as some other people from the Nitrap community. Giovanni in the past has done his own bit to promote that he was in fact the cousin Tony of Night Trap. A couple of years ago, I understand you did a giveaway of two copies of the game, the original game, I believe.
I did, funny enough. It's funny because I had actually never played the game, had never received a copy. And then back in the early 2000s, I went on eBay and I found the game, bought them off of eBay, but I never had a console. I tried to use some emulators, which did not function properly. So I just kept them. And then I posted online. I did that video thing about um, giving it away. Well, then this gentleman out of Vermont, no, Rhode Island in the United States off the East Coast, he had contacted me with some posters and stuff to sign for him and his son. So they sent them to me. I signed them, and I figured, you know what? I'll autograph the discs as well, and sent them to him, and he was unbelievably happy. So it was definitely nice to get them out to somebody who appreciated it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people appreciated your work for a game that I believe to be possibly one of the most important parts of video game history. As you know, Night Trap alongside Mortal Kombat was part of the Senate hearings back in, I believe, 1993. Um, and that led to the creation of all the age rating systems that we now basically take for granted today.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because I don't know, a lot of people don't know this. We actually did the shoot in 1987. I think it's in some places it states 1992, but we actually did all filming in 1987. So by the time the game was coming out with all the Senate hearings on everything, kind of off the back of all the MPAA stuff for music back in the late 80s with Tipper Gore, that kind of set that whole thing in motion, putting ratings on everything.
Yeah. I understand it was shot in 1987, and 1992 was actually the release of it was actually the initial release on the Sega CD. And after all the controversy subsided in 1993, all of the ports came out, which is when Night Trap started getting critiqued more harshly.
Yeah, it's so hilarious because you can find the videos and the clips online. And when I watch it, I can't believe how tame it is compared to even stuff of the day, movies, television shows, and to call it as violent and destructive as it was is really kind of humorous.
So compared to like you said, it's really tame compared to the games of today. Like Mortal Kombat um, was one of the games I also criticized for how brutal it was. But that game's still around today with the release of Mortal Kombat 11 recently, um, as well as a lot more horror games that are basically a lot more brutal than what was in Night Trap.
Yeah, I don't even think if Night Trap were actually released as a new game today, I don't think anybody even get it. They'd be like, "This is way too tame and way too cheesy for our tastes in this modern day."
Yeah, so now that we've had that initial discussion about your role in Night Trap, we're going to get on to the questions now, if that's okay with you.
Of course, it is.
All right, so the first question I have down here is do you remember the time in which you were asked to play the role in Cousin Tony in Night Trap, and did you have any acting experience before being offered the role?
I did. I had some small theater experience. I had done a few small little bit parts in some student films, but it was actually my very first professional audition. I was with an agency called the Vaughn Agency that I had gotten through a good friend of mine, Michael Butler, who used to do all my photography for back in the day. And like I said, it was my very first audition. They called me for a
Yeah.
callback, and next thing you know, I got it. And I think within maybe less than a month or so, we were on set in Century City.
Mm. That's actually really interesting because most people don't actually know how auditions for the game actually worked and how the directors of Night Trap actually picked who they picked and obviously the main character being Dana Plato who played Kelly in Night Trap and we've also got some other figures. Sorry, we've also got some other actors in there that are notable today, such as Andros Jones, who was Jeff. He's been in various popular movies such as Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, and then the the gentleman who played the father, he had played on Star Trek and
Hmm.
some other notable works as well. And yeah, Dana was awesome. We were really good friends for a while. Sadly, we lost touch, but yeah, in terms of notability, there were some good names in there. And of course, the directors, the stuntmen had all gone on to do some good stuff as well.
Yeah, they were really the unsung heroes. All the stuntmen who were like, I'm assuming most of the stuntmen had a part in playing the augurs, in which you have
Oh
to
yeah.
capture while playing through the game. Yeah,
Yes, they had multiple roles, and they were all very cool from what I remember. God, my God, 33 years ago. Can you believe that?
I really I really can't, to be fair. So the next question I've got up here is what was your like what after you got the role, what was your experience like while you were shooting Night Trap and how old were you when you first started?
I was 19. It was in the
Wow.
summer of 1987. I know I'm an old man. I'm 53, almost 53 years old. Uh, but yeah, it was really cool, and I was kind of trying to be a method actor. So I really got into the role of this really gloomy, moody guy. So I'd spend a lot of time on set by myself because that kind of seemed to me the way the character was, not as social. Slowly, I became friends. I was very good friends for a long time with Josh, who played the young kid, and Dana. And I
Yeah.
was madly, madly in love with Allison Ray, who played Ashley. So it was the rest of the cast I didn't stay in touch with, but those three I did for as long as I could. And so the experience was awesome, in terms of multiple camera shoots, retakes, and just dealing with direction. It was very nice for my first experience.
I find that answer somewhat humorous in a way because obviously throughout the story when Tony the character first meets Ashley, he tells Jeff that it looks just like a girl he used to love, and then when things start to get weird throughout the house and they start to catch on that everyone's actually a vampire.
Hmm.
Sorry about that voice crack. Um, uh, you're actually warning Ashley, you're actually warning her to stay away from the house and to get out as soon as you can. But then obviously Dana as Kelly comes in and tries and gets you away from her, and
Yeah,
that's when you as Tony essentially go rogue.
yeah, yeah. It's so funny. Just in terms of screenwriting and your standard writing, it's very interesting that the one person who's trying to be um, proactive and the protagonist, even though he's billed as the antagonist, it's such a standard way of writing and really makes an in-depth character look a lot more in-depth as opposed to the superficiality of a lot of the other protagonists that doesn't get portrayed as much in terms of critique. So I like the character, in a lot of ways. I didn't want to be any other character. And to be quite frank with you, I don't even remember if I auditioned for anything else. I think I just went in for a cold audition and then they chose me as Tony. I didn't specifically go in reading for Tony. It's just that
Yeah.
after my reading that they specifically chose me for the Tony part.
All right. And as a follow up to that question, do you have like any good or funny memories while you're on set?
Just, I think the best parts were when, you're on set, because obviously I wasn't on set every day because a lot of the scenes I'm not in.
Yes, that's
But
very
it was
understandable.
funny on some of the days where we had to just sit back in the green rooms or somewhere back set, and just hearing Dana. There was a couple parts where she had, she was falling and screaming. They had to do those takes like 50 or 60 times.
Yeah.
So just hearing her scream all day long was pretty funny. And then just memories of like getting the makeup and getting fitted for our fake teeth. So getting the molds and stuff like that. So, and just honestly, just really, the more fun parts are just sitting and talking with the people in the dressing areas or our RVs, and just spending all day talking about the characters, and seeing what's next, really. Because at the end of the day, as an actor, a lot of times when people do a film or a project of any sort, they have no clue if it's going to be received well critically or
Yeah.
by the fans. They have no idea if it's going to last or not last. So really, as an actor, you don't really appreciate it until afterwards, when you find out whether something becomes popular or not. So to be quite frank with you, I didn't even really know at that time what we were doing. I did not know that it was going to be an interactive video game. They just kind of gave us a small rundown. I don't think any of us really knew what was going to happen in the near future for that project. So in terms of memories, it was just again, being 33 years ago, I have some very clear memories, but a lot of them were really offset with Dana and Josh and Allison, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really it makes me really happy to know that you got along with everyone on the set and everyone was like really nice. That's how a good film should be, but obviously back then people didn't think the same.
Yeah,
So
very true.
on that topic, we go on to the third question.
Hmm.
Uh, like almost straight after the 1993 Senate hearings in which Night Trap was first criticized, what were your thoughts on it back then compared to now?
I'm going to be very frank with you. I did not pay too much attention to what was going on, mostly because as an artist, as a musician, I've been in the music business. During that time, I was more in the music business than I was in the film business. So I was focused far more on music scene in Los Angeles at that time. I was
Yeah,
involved with a couple of my band, and we spent most of our time playing out and trying to get our fan base out. So all that stuff in regards to Night Trap, again, at that point, it had been almost 6 years since we had done it. So it really wasn't on the top of my list of things to worry about, because uh, I just didn't see it going anywhere in regards to what the Senate was doing. So I just didn't pay. I didn't follow it anywhere near as close as some of the other people did.
yeah, that's very understandable. Obviously, as you said before, with with it being 6 years, like I said, most people don't know, but it wasn't actually filmed in 1992, as we said before.
Yeah.
Um, it's completely understandable how you basically didn't pay as much attention as others.
Yeah, like I said, going back to film work, it's funny because some people who do, after they've done a project, they don't ever revisit it. They don't watch it. They don't talk about it. You look at some of the big names, like, and not comparing myself to him, but let's say a Robert De Niro, for example. He never talks about former projects. Like when they did the 25th anniversary of Goodfellas. That's the only reason he talked about it, is almost he was kind of forced to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So to him, and it goes back to what I said earlier, when they made that movie, nobody had any idea it was going to be as popular as it was. So, all those actors just looked like, okay, we're working with Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Lorraine Bracco, Ray Liotta. So this is a great project. We're making some money. And then as soon as it's done, we'll move on to the next thing. So I think that's really the takeaway, in my opinion, about most film, commercials, television, theater, is it's really just a job. It just become when it becomes more than what it is, has a life of its own, and it's really about the fans, like such as yourself.
yeah,
Those are the really cool things about doing stuff like that, when you realize, wow, something I did so many years ago has made an impact in another person's life. And that to me is the real takeaway, not
yeah.
so much the actual production itself. I just think it's really cool that people appreciate it.
I said,
Here's a
I
funny little,
sorry.
real quick sidebar. It's funny. I was actually working in. I live in Virginia, obviously now, and we did the project in Los Angeles. And in 2014, which was 27 years after I had done the project, I happened to be at a recycling center in Yorktown, Virginia, and I was trying to pick up. I was picking out some boxes, for some recycling, and I opened up a bag, and there happened to be a mint condition box of the DVD. And I was like, "Holy cow!" Because I never had one, so I got it, and it was in mint condition. I'm gonna, frame it and everything. But it was just so funny. And the person I was with, I said, "You're not gonna believe this." They're like, "What?" I said, "See that vampire on the cover?" They're like, "Yeah." I said, "That's me." So it was just such a funny little thing, how life can go full circle at times.
I bet you got quite the reaction after that, after you told them it was
Yeah.
actually you.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty hilarious to see it. I was so surprised, and to see it in such perfect condition in a bag of trash. It was just so bizarre.
uh, that's actually like you said before. You know how you said uh, I can't actually quite remember straight off the top of my head, but you were saying that you shouldn't really keep on top of previous projects.
Hmm.
I really do like your outtake and your outlook on how you should look at previous projects. I think that's something that a lot of people who are aspiring actors can take away from
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Obviously, I didn't make it to the levels that I might have liked at that time. Sadly, the majority of people who get in this industry don't.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, um, every experience is an experience, and I think that when it manifests itself into something far more than what it was at its initial basis, then I think that's what's really cool.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely happy to have been part of that. And I mean, look, it's, I mean, here, think about this. You're three odd thousand miles away. You're 36 years younger than I am, and here we are talking about a project done 33 years ago. That's pretty cool when you think about that.
Hmm.
Those little moments. The day I went to that audition, I would never have imagined 30 some odd years later I'm talking to a 17-year-old kid from, you know Great Britain. So that's really cool when you look at the butterfly effect of life. That's a very cool thing.
So like when you actually realize that like the obviously the news when the controversy subsided, a
Hmm.
lot it was basically when the whole world had the eyes on Night Trap, or like everywhere in which it was released.
Hmm.
I believe it was like Europe. I think it was basically most regions: Europe, Asia, the United States. Um, Basically all eyes were on Night Trap after those hearings. So like, is that does it make you proud that like people are some people are still asking for interviews?
Yeah, like I said, man, it's super cool. Every time I get one, I'm thrilled. I know sometimes people in the industry, whether they're A-listers or D-listers, that they get really offended, or they're like, "Hey man, just, leave me alone about it." I don't understand that, because that's what you got into it in the first place, is to get the accolades and to build a fan base. So I'll never understand when people don't like it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of actors will get stereotyped. For example, let's use Seinfeld, or I don't know if you do you know the Seinfeld television show?
It rings a bell.
All right, well, let's say Friends. You know the television show Friends?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, some of those actors don't like the fact that they're, only remembered for that show. But when it's all said and done, that show has meaning for millions and millions of people around the world. And they have made hundreds of millions of dollars on playing effectively a made up character. So I think it's silly for somebody to get upset when somebody comes up to them or contacts them for an interview or an autograph, and that they don't appreciate the fan base that they created. So for me personally, I always think it's awesome.
So so like in short, from what I've taken from what you just said there is that you're really happy with the legacy that actually what something that at one point was bad is like really good today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I mean, at the end of the day, the thing with the hearings, what it did, it gave it more promotion than it probably would ever have gotten with a standard release. So what the Congress did is it created a legacy for the game, which also opened the door for new games. So I think the fact that they were trying to prevent it from being, popular, they actually made it far more popular. And again, being part of something that goes against the standard grain, especially when it comes to government, is always something that people should be happy to be part of.
Yeah, that's like very interesting. The way that you saw what something that was initially bad, and obviously when the controversy subsided, they re-released it because I think alongside another toy store that I can't quite remember the name of, one of the main toy stores that took it off the shelves was Toys R Us.
Hmm.
Um, and once all the controversy subsided and they okayed the release again, it obviously went to a lot more platforms. And then 25 years after the original release, um, you had obviously the 25th anniversary edition, created by the very talented Tyler Hogle, by the way. Um,
Yeah.
so so like it's been the controversy subsides, the ports get released, and then the game eventually essentially dies off. Sorry, and then it gets re-released and it ignites this interest that people once had back when they were kids, or like back when they were like back in some sort of phase that they had where they were really interested into how video games worked back then.
Yeah, I mean, in a weird way, it's almost, let's say, Elvis Presley or the Beatles. First the people didn't appreciate it. They get banned, they get castigated, and next thing you know, that particular negative consequence boosts their popularity, and they last forever. So I mean,
Mm,
obviously, Night Trap, I'm not going to compare it to the Beatles or Elvis, but on a small scale, it's a lot like that,
yeah,
where that the controversy makes it far more than what it really was in the first place.
yeah, that's really, like I said, like I keep saying before, it's like it's really good how you say this. Obviously, like you said before, with the A-listers and the D-listers getting annoyed by the fact that that like a program like or a movie that they played in has had such a big impact on people's lives that it just leaves people just want to chat with them like, oh, how was this specific part, and obviously it leaves some people, they greatly appreciate it. So people such as yourself, you greatly appreciate the interviews that you get, and I'm honestly really happy that you see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, without people to play the game or watch a television show, you're effectively, you know, nothing.
Exactly.
I, so it makes no sense to me. It's a build it and they will come, sure, but once you build it and they come, you should also be appreciative that they did, and give the people what they're asking for. Now, look, I get it. At the same time, especially with the big names, you can't be there for everybody at every minute of every day. I get that, and you have to. But you should always at least leave a slot of time, create that slot of time for people and say, hey, listen, I don't have 24 hours a day to do this for everybody, but here's an X amount of time on this X day, and that I'm willing to do these things. And I think that that's a far more good way to present the fame and fortune that these people get, that they would never have gotten without the same people that they turn around and look down upon. It's a very strange business.
Yeah, I very much agree with you on that.
Yeah.
That's a really good discussion that we've had about that question there. And on to the next one.
Hmm.
After filming Night Trap, after they wrapped it all up, did you get any more offers to be in movies or TV shows? And if so, what movies and TV
Well,
shows?
the only way people really get um, offers is if something is shown. And again, because it was sat on the shelf, effectively speaking, for almost 6 years, by the time it actually was put into the market, I really was not in the film business anymore. Um, I was in the music industry. Like I said, I was doing uh, modeling. It sounds so pretentious when I say it, but I was doing
Hmm.
that, and I was in the music business. So the film business and the theater business wasn't even something I was interested in at that juncture. And because I had only really done very, very, very small projects, no one was doing any type of offering because I didn't have a theatrical agent any longer. So had I stayed in that business and maybe parlayed it, if I gotten an agent and said, "Hey, listen, I was in this project that is getting all this controversy," I think it may have led to some more work. But since I was no longer interested in that direction, I didn't I didn't follow through on any of that.
That's I really liked how you answered that question. I think you've answered that the best way you could. Obviously, movies and like the movie industry in general, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and it's okay to go into different things. And I think you've really shown that in a good light.
Well, the thing about the entertainment industry, that most people don't like to hear, it's a pretty it's a dog eat dog, cutthroat, almost in a weird way, a debasing industry. You've got to, too many people want to be famous for the wrong reasons. If you're in this only to be famous, you're going to be very disappointed in the long run, and you're going to end up doing things that you normally wouldn't do in any other industry. And me personally, I was put in situations in my life at that time when I was really young that I refused to be a part of. You know, you hear all the negative stories about the industry. Well, believe me, they're all true, and they're 10 times worse than you could possibly imagine. So I didn't want that life for myself. I appreciate the artistry of it. And, when I got older and I could make far more better decisions in terms of the path I wanted to take, uh, I knew for a fact I was not going to debase myself or compromise myself as a human being. In its sad state of affairs, but when you hear about the Harvey Weinsteins and the Jeffrey Epsteins, all those
Yeah,
things are true on a scale that most people don't even realize. And so, for people who want to get into the industry, you have to really ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice as a human being, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, intellectually, to get to where you want? Because it's not like going to college and getting a degree and then getting a job. This is all about marketability. It's all about dollars, and it's all about who whose you know skirt you have to lift up or whose pants you have to pull down. Excuse my French to say it that bluntly, but it's the truth. Majority of people who get into the industry do things that they normally wouldn't do in the real world, to get to where they are. And I know that sounds negative, but the truth is, it is negative.
yeah, I very much appreciate your honesty in that question. I agree with you on the fact that people will sacrifice themselves emotionally and mentally to get to where they are, and I think a lot of actors, they probably don't like to admit it, but they've done it, that sort of thing.
Oh gosh, yeah. I know
Um,
many, 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 many big, big names, and I know exactly how they got there. I would never say anything, but trust you me, they sold their soul to the devil, and I just wasn't willing to do that.
yeah, that's completely understandable. Once you actually face that, once you actually face the facts, it really makes you question: do you really want to do it?
Oh yeah, no, I very clearly. Oh yeah, that was one of the reasons why. Also, now that when you asked that question about offers, now I remember. Um, I was propositioned on a few things, and I very clearly said no. I would never do these things. And then all of a sudden, all my auditions dried up. And that was one of the main reasons as well that I got out of the acting business and went more towards the music industry.
Yeah,
I felt that I had more control in the music industry, and you do to some degree, because fortunately, with the music industry, you're more in front of the fan base. Whereas in the entertainment industry, you're not out there until the product is finished and submitted by the big wigs. But at least with music, you can make to some degree your own destiny, because it's a very it's a the transaction is very live. It's in the moment, as opposed to film, where by the time the film or whatever product, it may be 6, 7, 8 months, a year down the line before that particular product is actually put out to market. But the great thing about music, you could write a song and be in a club the next day performing it. So it's a very in the moment, endeavor.
That's a really good answer and how you're doing this, and I appreciate how detailed your answers are for this interview. Um,
No worries.
the main purpose of this interview is to get your perspective on how like what Night Trap meant to you. You get what I'm saying.
Oh, of course.
So with that, we're going to go on to the fifth question. Is it the fourth or fifth question? I lost count. I just have them
I have
listed
two.
down.
It's all right.
Um, so the next question is about the 25th anniversary edition. I'm assuming you've heard of it before.
Oh yeah, I had talked to a few people that were actually a little disappointed that they didn't get the majority of the cast that was left, to do any behind the scenes talking or interviews. So I'll be honest with you, I did not keep up with it. Now I know for some of the fans that, like Keithy Huntington and a couple other people, they were really integral in helping to get the 25th anniversary edition for the game. But I personally had done a few interviews a few years back for some people who wanted to talk about it, but the actual production team did not contact any, at least me. Maybe they did with some of the others. I know they didn't contact me. So, because they didn't, I was more on the periphery, just hearing things and looking it up online. I did not get as in depth with it as I possibly should have.
Yeah. Aside from like, I understand you've only heard like bits of information about it, but when you first heard about like the idea, what was like your thoughts on the idea of re-releasing it again with like obviously better quality, better controls,
Sure.
more behind the scenes content, and obviously the prototype that was made even before Night Trap called Scene of the Crime.
Yeah, no, like I said, I would have been totally 100% on board. Um, but, if it's not benefiting everybody, I'm not that interested. I know that sounds callous, but
Yeah.
I did the project years ago, and if you want to re-release it and have the people who were involved be involved again, I'm all down for that. I just find it strange that they didn't want the people who were actually the cast to be part of the re-release. It just makes no sense to me personally.
That's fair enough, and once again I appreciate your honesty during that answer. Um,
Yeah.
is there anything you sorry? Was there anything you wanted to add?
Oh no,
Oh, sorry about that.
no
On
worries.
to the next question. So after all these years in Night Trap, I think you said it was over 30 years since you've done it.
Yes,
Um,
sir. 33 years.
33 years exactly. So apart from uploading regularly to YouTube, which is how we got into which is how I got into contact with you. Um, did you what do you usually get up to today? Like apart from your YouTube channel?
Well, sadly, with COVID, this whole, I don't know how it is in your country, but our country is ridiculous. It's insane that nobody can do anything. I've been a professional musician for many, many years.
Yeah,
So, as a matter of fact, right before you called, I posted something online, and another band contacted me hoping we can start performing. I love performing. I've been playing guitar for 30. As a matter of fact, the same year I was in Night Trap is the same year I started playing guitar. So
yeah,
1987 was a very important year for me. I sing professionally. I work in cover bands. I write originals. Right now, everything is just about online collaborations, which I really do like, because I've been meeting musicians from all around the country online, and we're doing projects together. And I don't know if you saw, but I was in the mixed martial arts world for well over 20 years.
Whoa,
I
really?
was a yeah, I was a Muay Thai fighter and a MMA fighter for about 13 years. So I did that semi-professionally. I owned my own mixed martial arts school. I've been a professional cage fighting announcer for the last 16 years. I do commentary, judging. I own four fight promotions. I work for a bunch of different fight promoters. I've worked for the UFC. So I've been involved in a lot of things over the years, and just the downside, obviously, of 2020 and COVID is everything's been shut down. So I'm hoping 2021 is a much, much better year.
Yeah, with obviously all the breakthroughs that have recently come out, um, the it looks like COVID's going to be out of our way within the next couple of years.
I
Um,
sure hope so.
so do I. So do I. Honestly, I really hope that we get to. I really hope we get to a point where we can just go back to normal. And it makes me really happy that been able to keep yourself really busy over the years. And has co- in terms of like COVID-19, has it given you like a different view on things?
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs how this entire planet has become so codependent on the government and terrified of everything. I'm not that kind of a person. I understand being cautious in the world, and I appreciate that. Having said that, over 50,000 people die every day in this world. Over 60 million people die every year in this world of a myriad of things: car accidents, motorcycle accidents, cancer, shootings, murders, natural disasters, whatever the case may be. And how the world governmental bodies have convinced 7.5 billion people to shut down their entire lives for an innumerable amount of time is very disheartening to me. And the problem now with it is that anything that's going to manifest itself in the world from this point forward, it's just going to take a matter of snapping the fingers to shut down the world again. So I don't like
Yeah.
it. I think people have become, at least in our country, I don't know how it is in your country, people out here are narcs. They rat on people if they're not wearing masks. Everybody is paranoid beyond paranoia. I think, again, caution is one thing, paranoia is another. So I do not like the direction that society is going in, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that does, and I appreciate your outlook, and I appreciate how, once again, you answered the question on COVID-19, obviously. And with that, we'll go on to the seventh and the final question. Um,
Yes,
despite it,
sir.
despite it all being almost 30 years, I think you said it was 33 years since the initial release of Night Trap. Um, you said you were really good friends with Dana Plato after the filming, and you were in love with Alison Ria, and you also were very good friends with Josh Goddard.
Yes.
I believe Danny's actor was called. Um,
Yes.
Despite all that, have you kept in touch with any of the cast after filming? Despite those three actors, have you kept in touch with anybody else? And today, have you lost touch with everybody, or do you still keep in contact with somebody today?
Aside from fans, no. I had reconnected with a couple people through Facebook, but I've been off of social media. I took myself off of all social media except for YouTube about 3 years ago. So no, I do not. I was 5 years older than Josh was. So when I did it, I had already finished high school. We were really good friends. But again, 19 to 14, it's 2015. That's a huge age difference. I just didn't have anything in common anymore with a young teenager. And that's really weird. I think people in their 20s should not be hanging out with teenagers. That's just my personal opinion. And of course, he also felt the same. He had his teenage friends, and we also lived about 40 some odd miles apart, something like that. So, just the natural progression of life. We lost touch. Sadly, same thing with Dana. Dana was an amazing human being, but she had a lot of personal demons that she was dealing with, which obviously sadly manifested to her taking her own life in 1999, which was very sad. And Allison, when I say madly in love, I was madly in love with Allison Rea. I mean, I even wrote a song called Alice Song. So I just take the name Allison and added the G at the end. Um,
Hmm.
uh, to this day, I think she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever met or known in my life. Sadly, I have never been able to find her. And I've talked to numerous other fans and a couple other cast members over the years. No one has ever seen or heard from her again. So I have no clue whatever happened to her. And that I would, I would obviously love to see or hear from her, if she was interested. But that's about it. Those are the only three that I had really maintained any type of friendship with.
That's really that's like really funny actually because the main purpose of this like little research project, as I said before, was to see where everyone is now, and it would nothing like at the moment nothing would make me happier than for you to like reconnect with Alison. And if we found a way in which we could contact Alison, I would obviously immediately let you know because I would love for you
That
two
would
to
be awesome.
contact each other again.
Yeah, that would be so cool. I mean, seriously, she was just one of the coolest people I'd ever met in my life. And we went out on a few dates after the filming. And again, LA in the 1980s, we're all trying to be actors at that time, and everybody just went in their own different directions. And, when people are super busy trying to build their careers, having personal lives sometimes gets in the way. So you end up losing contact with people.
That's really funny, and I appreciate you being so honest with how you felt about Alison. Obvious, obviously there's been a couple of running jokes about how how they both felt about each other
Yeah.
on set. Like Alison, and it was it was quite clear in some of the acting you did with her. It looked as if like whenever you were in a scene with Ashley, it was you. That was you. That was obviously you at your best. In my opinion, that was you at your best when you were in scenes with Ashley.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And yeah, that concludes our interview with Giovanni Francioso. Thank you for providing thank you for providing really good answers and being honest. Um,
Well, I appreciate that.
even if it doesn't help how you look, if you get what I mean. I appreciate how you said them questions. Once again, I want to say a really big thank you for agreeing to do this interview. I really appreciate it. For those that are watching this video on YouTube, you can find a link to Giovanni's YouTube channel where he posts on a regular basis. And at the start of the video, you will have also seen one of his latest songs. What was it called again?
Everybody wants to be loved.
Uh, like I said, everyone wants to be loved at the end, and we'll also leave a link to that song in the description. So please give him as much support as you can because it's I find it really I really appreciate the fact that you took the time out of your day to do an interview with someone like me. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, look, I appreciate it more. Like I said in the email, again, I do not have an ego like that in any way, shape, or form. So when someone reaches out to me, I feel I have a duty, and it's incumbent upon me to follow through. I couldn't even imagine having said no. So I'm appreciative that you reached out to me, and I'm very thankful for that.
All right, so this brings us to the end of the interview. Like I said before, thank you all for so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in another interview with another member of the cast as soon as we try to get contact. And that's it. Thank you all for watching, and I obviously will see you again later.